over here!
Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
And I'm Adam Ellis.
After 7 years of ridiculous Bird Dog hype, we are just a few months away from The Last Guardian, although that was almost just like 1 month away, but not anymore thanks to the newly announced delay. We're not bitter. At least it's not long, right?
Not too far. But despite being told we'll have to wait a little longer, gamers were still excited to see if this week's Tokyo Game Show had anything new to offer from Team Ico's game that has spent way too much time in the making. And on that front, there's good news and bad news.
So the good news is that yes, The Last Guardian is playable at TGS, and yes, we also got a new trailer courtesy of a GameStop Managers Convention of all places. But the bad news is that so far the early impressions of The Last Guardian are not very favorable.
A game that was hyped beyond belief might not turn out to be all it was cracked up to be. Say it isn't so.
Yeah, alright, you make a fair point. The less than glowing write-ups of the TGS gameplay demo are starting to pop up around the internet. While it'd be one thing if the gripes were isolated to one particular write-up from someone who was maybe just having a bad day, it seems like people's experience with the game they're all trending in the same direction. Namely, that the game controls poorly, has a bad camera, is frustrating, and feels like a last generation remake more than a game made for the modern era. So it's a Team Ico game.
That whole 9 years in development thing might have had a little something to do with that feeling. Just a hunch.
Maybe, possibly.
When The Last Guardian first started development, it was 2007.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It was originally meant to be a PlayStation 3 game.
So here's what people are actually saying about the game after playing it, from their own mouths. Polygon's write-up, titled "After a Half Hour with The Last Guardian, I'm Concerned," is critical about almost every facet of the gameplay, but has the harshest words about how the game controls.
They said, for as much as The Last Guardian nails the broad feeling it's going for in the demo, it whiffs on the details. Specifically, it feels awkward as hell when it comes to actually controlling the main character. The protagonist doesn't walk so much as he lurches in whichever direction you push the analog stick.
It's a Team Ico game. There you
right,
go.
They're doing it.
Both Ico and Shadow of the Colossus controlled in a pretty similar manner to that, so if you liked those games, maybe that's not a complaint. Although that may not be the greatest defense considering those games also did come out in 2001 and 2005 respectively. You'd expect a game releasing in 2016 to maybe not control in the same way no matter when development actually began.
Others agreed about the control scheme as well. Kotaku wrote that many tasks in the game are much harder than they need to be and take way too long to accomplish, mostly due to the poor controls. However, the biggest complaint that Kotaku had was with none other than the lovable bird dog himself, Trico.
No problems with the bird dog! So he's apparently a kind of a dick though. So he does whatever he wants and that's the problem they have.
There's a dog. Surprise.
Cute as a button. Actually like a bird dog. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Back in 2011, the game's creator Fumito Ueda explained that was an intentional part of the design, learning to work with an AI creature that had a mind of its own. So all of that frustration kind of intentional, but in practice it sounds, maybe a little bit less fun than you'd hope for a video game. The writer was saying he was constantly waiting around on Trico and trying to get its attention.
IGN also hated the integration with Trico, writing, "It can get tedious waiting for him to get into position or interact with the environment the right way, which pulled me out of the experience more than once. It's a passing annoyance during a 40-minute demo, but if Trico remains so insolent over the course of the game, it could become a lot less tolerable."
How dare the bird dog be insolent? No. As for why the game would work that way, it sounds like the main intention is to try to strengthen the bond between the player and Trico. The more puzzles they solve together, the more Trico is willing to work with you. It's an arty concept straight out of Team Ico's playbook, but it does seem to be, irritating people even in small doses.
And as if that wasn't enough, IGN also criticized The Last Guardian's camera, writing, "The camera misbehaves about as often as Trico does. It gets caught on objects in the environment, it swivels unexpectedly or focuses where you don't necessarily want it to, and it loses track of Trico at inopportune moments."
Oh, shame on you. Bad camera, bad. So if you ever wanted to relive the early 2000s and all its gaming problems, this might be the game for you. You can have this, and you can have Recore, which also plays like a much older game. And that's Polygon's key takeaway with the whole thing as well. They eventually said, "Many of my problems with this short demo of The Last Guardian can be summed up neatly in one sentence. It feels like a PlayStation 2 game."
This echoes the concerns voiced about the game from the last time it was playable, which was at E3. At the time, many figured the game was still a few months out and had some time for polish, but that's not quite the case anymore, even with the delay.
Yeah, back in June, VG247 claimed that their hands-on time with Last Guardian was that it looked incredibly dated. Well, Yeah, which honestly, the trailers even have still kind of looked dated. I'd like to think we've all just accepted that at this point.
It's art style.
But the overall had flat textures and lighting and particle effects that were, quote, positively prehistoric.
Ugh. Despite some of those negative opinions, it does sound like there's at least some positive reviews. Even though they found the cause for concern, Polycon did go on to say the game looks beautiful, and its environments are stunning, and the puzzles are clever and satisfying.
Wired had some issues with Trico too, but ultimately found that the game is more enjoyable if you slow down and meet it on its own terms rather than trying to just rush through the whole thing.
Naturally, this is cause for concern for those hoping The Last Guardian was posed to jump over its generation without any consequences whatsoever.
Nope.
Instantly becoming one of the greatest games on the PS4. But it should be noted that we are talking about impressions, not reviews, and those are very small slices of gameplay.
Yeah, but caveats aside, none of these impressions should really be all that surprising. It certainly makes sense that a game that started development in a time before some of the amazing AAA games we've seen in the last 7 years is, well, it's still a product of its time.
After all this hype, it's going to be impossible for Sony and Team Ico to live up to it. And a lot of the hype isn't even their fault. They've only been quietly talking about this game rather than hyping it up and showing the same specific piece of gameplay over and over for years.
So, let's just be clear. We're the ones hyping it up. All of us.
It's your
all of us
fault.
gamers that are super excited about the bird dog, which, to be fair, is adorable and worth being excited about. Like, oh, bird dog, come here. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean an amazing game, just a cute character. But more than anything, it seems like players are going to have to just manage expectations, realize that they're getting a game that was meant for another time. Let's not No Man's Sky this, guys. So it's going to be a little bit easier, hopefully, if we just take a step back and learn from that one. Because that one was maybe a little bit over-promised and under-delivered. This one is just kind of under-promised and self-hyped.
As long as you're still expecting and hoping for an old school Team Ico game that still plays as such, it sounds like you might not have anything to worry about. Well, except Trico dying, because that's totally gonna happen!
It's gotta happen, right?
happen.
We're all gonna get our hearts broken at the end of this. It's gonna be
cry.
like at the end of Black and White.
Spoiler.
That game is so old, that doesn't even count as a spoiler. Spoilers do not get to be like 10 years or whatever. That game is at least that old. That's fine. I'm not even counting Black and White as a spoiler. I thought of another spoiler and then I didn't say that spoiler.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But whether you're worried or not, we are gonna all have to wait until the end of the year to see if we get our hearts broken, if the game's dated, if it's worth our self-overhype. We need to come up with a term for that. Leave it in the comments. But hopefully we won't have to wait any longer than December to find out all those things.
What do you guys think of the early negative impressions of The Last Guardian? Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates from more games that can't possibly live up to the hype that we create for them, like this video and subscribe to The Know.
Are we done? Is it over? Can they hear me? I'm gonna leave.
That was impressive.